Good afternoon and a warm welcome to today's webinar. My name is JP Lauer. I'm a Vice President with the GEP, leading our services and key accounts in Europe. We have fresh content to go through today with the help of GEP's experts. Balazs will cover professional services. We'll then deep dive on legal services with Anish and move on to facilities services with Lauren and Thomas, and then close with Paul on travel. A couple of housekeeping topics. You have all joined in listen-only mode. So to ask questions, please use the Q&A window. You'll see that under the GEP logo. And please remember to click submit. We aim to answer questions at the end of the presentation today. I will take a minute to introduce GEP. At GEP, we focus solely on procurement and supply chain. We provide end-to-end consulting, technology, and managed services solution. We operate globally, serve about 500 customers with 6,000 employees, headquartered in the US and 20 offices globally. So some of our offices in Europe are London, Amsterdam, Prague, and Cluj. And we're also very happy to have been recognized as a global leader in procurement and supply chain by a number of analysts, such as Gartner, Forrester, IDC, etc. So I will now hand over to Balazs, who will cover professional services.
Thank you, JP. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the first topic of today's webinar. My name is Balazs Holczer. I'm Category Manager at GEP, specialized in the area of professional services. In the first section of this webinar, I'll be taking you through some of the key highlights from GEP's 2023 Spend Outlook report, focusing on key trends and their impacts on the professional services category, more specifically in management consulting and financial services. After a decline in 2020 driven by the pandemic, the consulting industry has recovered in the last 2 years and expected to continue growing in 2023. As before, together with North America, the consulting markets in Europe form the largest consulting markets in the world. The professional services industry is constantly evolving. There are several trends that are currently shaping the landscape. In management consulting, we are seeing a significant shift towards data-driven approach. Consultants are leveraging big data and advanced analytics to help their clients to make more informed decisions. The use of artificial intelligence and machine learning has become increasingly popular in the industry, helping clients to analyze complex data structures. Consulting firms are also using technology to deliver their services in new and innovative ways. For example, they may use virtual or AR technologies to help clients visualize complex concepts or use cloud-based platforms to collaborate with clients in real time. Another trend we are seeing in management consulting is a growing emphasis on sustainability and social responsibility. Increased demand for ESG and sustainability consulting can be attributed to government regulations mandating companies to disclose climate-related financial risk, greenhouse gas emissions, and efforts they make to reduce their carbon footprints. Companies recognize that ESG performance can impact their reputation, risk profile, and financial performance, and therefore they are seeking consultants who can help them integrate ESG considerations into their business practices. Professional services firms are making efforts to widen their spectrum of services and expand their portfolios. In order to achieve this, they are training their consultants internally, or they are hiring external subject matter experts, as well as acquiring firms with expertise in specific areas, such as sustainability. Another trend in the industry, which is another new trend, is remote consulting. The pandemic has accelerated this trend towards remote working, and firms are expected to increasingly offer remote consulting services to meet changing needs of their clients. Wider acceptance of remote working has enabled professional services firms to leverage specialized resources from different regions to meet unique client requirements. Remote consulting is also allowing consulting firms to expand their reach and serve clients in new geographic markets. while reducing the costs associated with travel and on-site consulting. Recruitment and retaining of talents are expected to remain a significant challenge for all professional services firms. Wage increases due to inflation and high demand for skilled resources have made it tough for firms to find and retain talents, especially in financial and business services, wherein demand has outstripped supply. Since both consulting and financial services are very labor-intense services, there is a strong inflationary pressure due to increased pay, recruitment, and training costs that professional companies are trying to pass on to their clients. Finally, I would like to take you through a few recommendations procurement teams can use to mitigate these challenges and keep consulting and financial services costs under control. First, procurement teams should widen the spectrum of suppliers and start liaising with niche and boutique firms that can provide customized, innovative, and cost-effective solutions. However, for critical areas, procurement may continue to work with their existing consultants with solid track records. Another recommendation is that for specific projects, it is worth considering the use of outcome-based fee structures instead of using the classical time and material-based approach. Procurement should increasingly challenge its partner firms to digitalize, automate, and deploy big data and AI into their core offerings. This will improve their operating and service delivery models, optimize costs, and increase operational efficiencies, and of course, reduce risk. Also, demand management remains an effective way to control external consulting spend. Business can benefit a lot from establishing a strong and effective internal control on consulting demands and from leveraging the in-house consulting team whenever possible. As before, procurement teams should pay attention to the right mix of consultants on a case-to-case basis to avoid that the company is paying the invoices based slowly on the rates of the highly experienced consultants, as some tasks may be carried out by consultants with less experience. In summary, the professional services category is undergoing a significant transformation with a focus on data-driven insights, sustainability, and digitalization. As these trends continue to evolve, professionals in the industry must remain adaptable and responsive to the changing needs of their clients. I hope I've given you valuable insight into some of the key trends in the professional services category, and now I'm handing over to my colleague Anish Banerjee, who will take you through the legal services category.
Great. Thanks, Balazs, for that overview on professional services. Let's maybe deep dive a little bit into legal services and try and understand what's happening in the whole domain of law firms as well as other sort of associated legal services as well. Now, there are a few key trends and also kind of challenges that are impacting the overall category as we go into 2023. Regulatory activities are on the rise. This has been a growing trend over the past few years around cybersecurity, data privacy, other environmental regulations, and especially on labor and employment topics as well. Another key trend, which is very different from what we saw in the past 2 to 3 years, has been in the merger and acquisition field. 2021, which saw a record year in terms of deals. Now 2023, we see an increased slowdown in deals activities, and this is across all industries. And that obviously has a big impact on how our clients are interacting with law firms, specifically around M&A topics. In quite a few countries with recession-driven controls in place, clients are facing conditions that are recessionary in nature, and this is again leading to a considerable slowdown in any demand for legal activities at the moment. Now, with all of these challenges that the law firms are facing, specifically around decreasing demand and also around increasing employee costs, we are seeing trends where law firms across our clients are passing on rate increases, which is typically in the neighborhood of 3 to 5%, but now it is significantly above that, and that also is having an impact on how the clients are managing the legal portfolio. On the other side, there has been an increased adoption of legal tech. We see a lot of clients coming up with questions and trying to understand the trends, trying to understand where they could best fit in legal tech into their whole portfolio. So this is across more traditional e-discovery and matter management, but also in terms of more AI driven tools, specifically in litigation and patent support. So overall, I think when you look at all of these different key trends, you see a low to moderate bargaining power of law firms. Now, with the decreased demand and so on, I think this is a great moment for both the functions, the chief legal officer with the legal function and procurement coming together to do the extra bit to overall manage your costs and operations. Now, just want to share a very key thought here, which was across a few surveys done to try and understand what exactly are the chief legal officer's priorities. And when you look at the trends, and this is across 50% plus of legal departments who rank this, the highest ranked is controlling outside counsel costs. An overwhelming 87% said that. Next comes the trends around using technology to simplify their internal processes. So it's more looking at the space of how clients are managing their own legal operations and their sort of discussions with their law firms as well. And then comes the focus on kind of internal data security. So cost is at the four point of the conversation. And again, it makes for a great platform for procurement to engage with the CLOs. So, given all of this, what should the CLO and the procurement focus on at the moment? Um, there is a cost or a focus discipline that needs to come in. What this means is basically when you have matters going on, and I'm talking about key matters here, you need to actively manage these matters, which means a focus on detailed budgets, almost going down on a month-on-month rolling basis. Where are we versus budgets? Trying to make sure that you are in front of increases that might be coming up. You can predict and forecast any of the upcoming trends within that matter, and thereby you avoid a lot of surprises. So that's essentially important. The second thing is setting up of the preferred panel of law firms. Now, this has been a topic that's been discussed time and again, and it again comes at the foreground in terms of actioning costs. So, a strategic panel in place with preferred relations across tier one and tier two firms. You have discussions and you have contracts or SOWs set up that clearly call out these discounts and rebates and alternate fee arrangements and what's the best resource mix to put in place. Again, a lot of things that Balazs spoke about earlier around professional services, the principles also kind of apply here. There is an increased focus on cutting the legal tail spend dramatically. So it's about making sure that you focus very well on a few quality relationships and you cut off the tail as much as feasible. And again, it's very important you revisit this annually and refresh as is required. The third focus area for these teams has to be around how do we optimize their in-house teams. So the whole legal function, but also maybe any associated legal services firms that are helping them out, and a continued focus on technology adoption. Um, at this time of recessionary conditions, I think it's even more important that chief legal officers are really looking at how can I optimize my in-house team. Thumb rule is usually 40 to 70% of the budgets is focused on your in-house spend, and you have stronger in-house counsel and then a good mix of a global and regional team that can help you service across all geographies your company may be present in. And again, the right technology mix is really important. As I said earlier, there is a lot of focus around legal tech. Conversations are on the rise. There is a 30% CAGR at the moment. So there's a lot of growth in that space, which means that increased adoption now will really help you solve some of these problems as you see above. So that in a nutshell is where legal services is at the moment. And again, one leaving thought for everyone here is that the increased cooperation between the chief legal officer and legal teams and procurement is now going to continuously bear fruits for the organization. So I hope that gives you some insights and thoughts around where legal services are at the moment. Again, if you have questions, please post them in. We're happy to answer them as we go ahead. And with that, I'll hand over to Thomas and Lauren to talk about facility management and other FM services.
Thank you, Anish. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Thomas Luchier, and I'm a category manager for FM for GEP. And I will take just a couple of minutes of your time to discuss about the soft part of FM, soft services. So there is a main trend actually in for 2023 regarding the soft FM is actually the back to the office trends, as has been already started end of 2022 and now beginning of 2023. So more and more employer going back to the office. What does it mean? Actually, it means that the soft FM part is ramping back up. And we are actually seeing right now some SLA level close to what we had in 2020, which is something pretty good actually from this particular category. But when we take into account the world we are living now, and we saw regarding the inflation and the rising market price, what does it mean actually? So in 2022, the rising market prices, the deep inflation, and the, as I said, increased demand for the FM services as the pandemic diminished, put quite a lot of pressure on companies to optimize their operating models, right? With the help of consulting companies such as GEP for the European market. What we see actually is that facility owners, they will face for 2023 the rise of higher standards, as I said, like what we saw back in 2020, but while keeping a really low budget to ensure then business continuity. So this is the main trend we are seeing for the soft FM for 2023. But based on that, actually, GEP has a couple of recommendations that everybody should follow for this category. First one is the strategic relationship. So companies, they should have a long-term vision. They should nurture actually the partnership they had with companies for the past couple of years to work together on optimization. The second one that we see, and we saw already that in 2022, is the adoption of technology, right? Some kind of counteraction of the FT crisis, because as we see nowadays, and we're going to see as well for the next 5 to 10 years, people with experience in FM actually going more and more into retirement, and new people are not really interested about getting this experience in the FM services. So one of the possibility would be actually to replace them or actually help the remaining FT through the adoption of technology, IoT, drones, robots, automation, such like this. Third point, actually, as a recommendation, will be IFM as a long-term achievement. So this is something that pretty much every company is trying to obtain. It takes quite a lot of time, between, let's say, 2 to 3 years to have a completely IFM. But what actually this brings to the company is that they have traction over all the FM, soft FM services, sorry, and as well like visibility on what is being done while having the rationalization of suppliers. Last point, cooperation is key. As well, we are companies that should try actually to not think about FM as a category, like a loan category, but actually linked it to real estate, so RE, as well as CapEx partnership all together to be able to bring the best of the three categories together. So that was my, let's say, trends that we saw for the soft FM for 2023. Now I'm going to leave Lauren talk to you about the hard services. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Lauren Keightley and Category Manager for FM at GEP. Following those great insights shared by Thomas on Soft FM, I'd just like to share with you some views for 2023 on Hard FM. As we enter a period of economic, social and environmental challenge, the FM industry once again must rise to provide assurance and develop solutions working with internal teams, but also with our suppliers. Costs continue to be a big challenge for 2023 with increases in food, fuel, materials, business rates and pay. And then we have the supply chain disruptions, which impact access to goods and how they efficiently end at their final destination. So some recommendations to mitigate and control these impacts. We need to develop and maintain relationships with suppliers by having robust agreements containing detailed SLAs and KPIs to measure suppliers against, with also service credits to manage any failures. Fixed costs to manage budgets, and detailed delivery requirements and expectations, understanding of critical spares which need to be reviewed on a regular basis, and innovation and continuous improvement schemes. These are some points to provide a formalised system for both parties to monitor, develop and implement new initiatives, delivering service and cost efficiencies. These will lead to strengthened supply relationships to make sure your business is responsive and agile and to manage the unexpected, and to deal with the disruptions appropriately, efficiently and effectively. Secondly, many businesses still depend on reactive maintenance despite the fact that it's more costly and less efficient. Preventive maintenance covers regular technical checks where the maintenance team has the chance to change parts and make adjustments before any sign of malfunction appears. This proactive maintenance strategy helps companies to avoid equipment failure, machine downtime, and of course to extend assets' lifespan. Predictive maintenance is a strategic approach to optimizing equipment usability, using data collected from Internet of Things devices such as sensors, machine learning, and monitoring equipment. Predictive maintenance determines exactly when's the best time to perform equipment maintenance, and with this capability, maintenance managers save both time and resources. Finally, from me, sustainability has a very important role this year moving forward. There is an increase in mindfulness of the environmental impact of operations and solutions, such as using building management systems more effectively, and also thinking about how we can maybe install the LEDs, solar PV, ground source heat pumps, to name a few. Businesses need to explore these opportunities to really reap the rewards. So there's some insights from myself and Thomas on FM, and I will hand over to, I was going to hand over to my colleague Paul Wakelin, but unfortunately he's not with us at the moment. So I'll hand over to Anish to move to questions and answers, I think.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Thomas and Lauren, for walking us through that. And yeah, unfortunately, due to some technical issues, Paul could not join us for the session on travel. I'm sure it would have been insightful for all to really understand what's happening in the travel world. So maybe we'll find another way of being able to communicate that across. But I think this is a good point to maybe go over some of the questions that have been coming in from you guys. So I really do appreciate the participation there. And again, as we go through some of these questions at the moment, if there are more that come up, please do leave them in the comment box. We would love to have your questions and get back to you during this session itself. Right. So with that, maybe we go through a few of the questions. Balazs, there's one for you around professional services, rather consulting in particular. What kind of consulting projects would be suitable for procurement to push for the application of the outcome-based pricing model?
Thanks, Anish. It's a good one, actually. Yeah, we, as I mentioned, to target outcome-based pricing model could be an effective way to get away from the traditional pricing, which both sides can benefit from, right? So it's normally with the outcome-based pricing, we target to achieve a win-win situation. But when it comes to the outcome-based pricing, we need to keep in mind that it's not suitable approach for each and every project in consulting. So I would say the golden rule is there are no golden rules, but as a rule of thumb, we can say that it's outcome-based pricing is more likely to work if your project or supplier relationship meets certain criteria. Criteria number one would be that you need to have a project with a clear business outcome, meaning like you target to have increased sales or reduced costs or reduced inventory. So it needs to be measurable. Number two, I would say that you have to have a strong existing supply relationship. If you have worked with the supplier for many years before, and they know your business well, there's going to be more trust and less risk involved in pricing based on an outcome. Number three, I would say that the supplier you work has to have control over the process end to end, meaning that basically the consulting firm takes care of the implementation of the recommendations. If they have control over the entire delivery, it's more likely that you can agree on a certain outcome-based price structure. I hope it answers the questions. Thanks, Anish.
Thanks, Balazs. Yeah, that does. I think that's a great way to summarize where it's applicable and not. But again, from one project to another, I think it's really important to think and to really well define what the outcomes are before you can start to think what and where an outcome-based model would fit. So thanks, Balazs, for taking that question. Thomas and Lauren, one for you. On the FM side, from a TCO reduction perspective, what would be the way from a short, medium, and a long-term vision, I think specifically within your category?
Thank you, Anish. I will take on this one. So there's a couple of ways actually to see it. So from the short-term perspective, it will be actually tackling what we call the low-hanging fruits, meaning to go directly to your main suppliers and renegotiate directly based on pretty much, let's say, the outlook of 2023 regarding the inflation, regarding the rising price, because at the end we are all in the same, let's say, situation. So we should try to work on together to pretty much decrease let's say the rates that we have with the main suppliers. That will be like really the short term if we're talking about, let's say, 6 months to 1 year. From the midterm, so as I was discussing before, IFM being pretty much like the goal that each and every business should target, that would be actually working towards this IFM. By doing that, it would be pretty much reviewing everything that you have in your portfolio from the soft or even hard FM services, and see if you can work with like your main players, such as ISS, Sodexo, Veolia. Let's say if I have to name, like, let's say the main three from my perspective, and really working with them towards like rationalization of all the suppliers, having only a couple of them dealing for each and every site, location, region, or even globally. From the long-term perspective, that will be actually, again, towards IFM, having 1 or 2 companies that will deal with all your services, your facility management services globally, and as well having a really strong partnership with them for them actually to be able to bring on the table optimization with the use as well of new technology that we are seeing like emerging there and there, from the replacement of FTE to really optimizing the services and reviewing the SLAs side by side or even region by region on a quarterly or on monthly basis. That would be, from my perspective, the best way to achieve like the highest TCO.
Great. Thanks, Thomas, for summarizing that. I see there's one audience question here as well. Madhav asks, most of the emerging tools are on a proprietary platform, which are costly. Any chance that such emerging tools will be available on open source platforms? Balazs, I'm not sure if this was more within the professional services space or maybe within legal. Do you have any thoughts in professional services? And maybe I can talk a little bit around legal services.
I'm fine if you take this up, Anish. Thanks.
Okay. Madhav, if your question was around legal services in general, I mean, again, it's about defining the right needs for your organization, and then making sure that the right tools and the right technologies then onboarded in terms of supporting the legal function. So whether that's across e-discovery or matter management, or more sophisticated activities, it would really depend on how well that is defined and then sourced. There are tools that are available on open source platforms as well, but again, if the organizational needs are more suited for rather more suited in line with what some of the proprietary platforms and tools are providing, then there's obviously greater value there because you want to have something that really fits you. Yeah, all right. And then we see another question on legal services around, with potentially decreasing demand for legal services, how can procurement adapt and strengthen their portfolio of legal firms? Again, I think this goes back to the principle of how well we can define, manage, measure, and then refresh the portfolio of legal firms and the panel of firms that we are working with. I think the close relationships with them and making sure that they understand our business objectives, and with cutting down the tail as well and focusing on select relationships, I think that's really the flavor and the way to go ahead in terms of engaging with legal firms. Okay, one more question here I see that's again within the FM space. So Thomas or Lauren, one of you could answer that. How can we achieve TCO reduction knowing that the SLAs are growing back to the level of 2020, while they've seen that the budget has seen a drop during COVID and even post-COVID?
For me, I think we need to make sure that we evaluate and make sure the SLAs and KPIs they're all significant, that they all match what the needs are right now of what you need, and making sure they're measurable to that. I think we need to question the services and the specifications and the frequencies, and making sure that that's all covered in there, and the SLAs and KPIs are all aligned to those as well. I don't know if you've got anything to add from Soft FM side, Thomas.
I believe you covered pretty much everything, Lauren, on that. Yeah, you covered everything. Thank you.
Okay. The next question, and I guess this is slightly across the board. What are conclusive key trends for Europe in each category, and how can businesses still grow while evaluating market risks? Balazs, do you maybe want to go first around professional services?
Yeah, just reading through the question again. Yeah, so I think we all of us touched upon the key trends for the respective categories. So for professional services, I think the increasing trend is going to be, so due to the regulatory environment and due to government regulations, there are increasing trend in consulting, meaning that firms tend to use external consultants increasingly to meet these to meet the requirements, and also like in sustainability, also consulting firms are specialized in that area, or they partner with other consultant firms so that they can expand their offering. So, what in terms of volumes, I think that generally this is what's feeding the consulting industry. So for the next years, I think that volumes, consulting volumes will be even higher. I hope it answers it from my end.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Balazs, for that. I can quickly summarize on legal, and then maybe over to Thomas and Lauren on the FM side. I think across Europe, the two major trends, I think, again on the demand for legal services and more associated with the recessionary conditions and so on, it makes that interesting because, again, with the decreasing demand, even the law firms are then passing on increased rates. And so how do you really manage and balance that conversation and make sure that you're still preserving your core set of strategic partners, but still, challenging them enough and making sure that you are taking care of costs. So that's one challenge, I guess, to take care of. And the other one is, again, there are increasing conversations we are having with clients where the focus is on adoption of legal tech. Again, a lot of the clients are on a different maturity path. So some are more mature, some are less. But, all in all, I think there is a increased appetite, as I would see it, across firms on different implementations, but largely it is focused around easing up legal operations and making sure that they are well on top of their overall IP portfolio as well. Thomas and Lauren, do you want to take the question on the FM side around key trends for Europe?
Yes. So I see like one question there. The go-to suppliers for any soft FM. I believe I can put as well hard FM inside for 2023. I'm kind of an old school on that because I haven't changed my mind for the past couple of years. But like there's like three names always coming to my mind when we're talking about the go-to suppliers. I'm French, so of course there will be Veolia and Sodexo. But I've had like really a lot of let's say success story with working with ISS. If we are talking from the IFM perspective, they are really like, let's say, on top regarding the market trends, and as well they are not shy about proposing, as I was discussing, let's say, new technology on the everyday, let's say, life of an office. If we just take an office as an example, being able to propose IoT, being able to propose some CMMS as well, to have all the feedbacks back to the facility managers to actually update the way they are working. That would be like my go-to three suppliers. And one supplier that I will not say I care so much, but I really like to work as well globally will be Securitas from the security services, because again, from the technology point of view, they've been extremely agile to kind of counteract this issue that we have from the FTE perspective, but really introducing new technology from day one with like updated CCTV. If we take this as an example, and they've been as well introducing, for example, drone surveillance, which was something that was discussed a bit but not really like incorporated, and we see it like more and more incorporated inside the businesses. So those will be like my go-to suppliers. I don't know if Lauren have different name in head.
No, I think you've covered a few. I think obviously I think just one thing for suppliers with me is I think you just need to make sure that the suppliers are the right size for your business. Just really take that into consideration. Because if you go too big, then you just get lost in the reeds kind of thing. And if you go too small, then they can't adapt, and they can't cover the service requirements that you need. So I think it's really key to make sure that the suppliers that you're looking at and evaluating are at a similar size and can give you the focus that's needed. Hopefully that helps.
All right. Thanks, Thomas and Lauren. Balazs, a question for you. Again, within consulting, what are the pros and cons for insourcing of consulting demand?
Thanks, Anish. So, insourcing of consultants has its advantages and disadvantages, of course. Most big companies tend to set up an internal pool of internal consultants to be able to manage some of the demands. In fact, actually, they tend to consolidate the spend with their internal teams. But it can be done to a certain extent. For sure, you can't internalize everything due to lack of capacity or lack of expertise. Speaking of the advantages, on the one hand, internal consultants, they have deeper knowledge of the company culture, of the strategy and its main objectives. So that could help them to come up with the best solution or a more suitable solution. Also, the time that you need to invest in the supplier selection process, you can eliminate this time, and also with internal consultants, you have the opportunity to ramp up the project even faster. And another advantage is that you have the know-how within the company. So especially in confidential projects, it's a big advantage. Speaking of some of the disadvantages, so your consultants may have limited access to industry best practices and processes, which may limit them from coming to the optimal solution. Also, when it comes to capabilities, especially in niche areas, the time and efforts and costs involved in finding the right candidates could be very challenging for the companies. So, for these niche demands, it may be a better option to find an external company specialized in that area.
Great. Thanks, Thomas, for that. I'm sorry, thanks, Balazs. One more question here I see that's come up. I guess this is more for you, Thomas, around the soft FM world. So you spoke about technology in the soft FM world. What are, or rather will be, the main trends for 2023 and beyond?
So what I could see in the past couple of years and what I saw actually what's happening in 23 until 2028 will be the main one, as everybody was talking about, is like the drone markets. That's going to be like increasing. As I think you know, from the maintenance perspective and inspection perspective, drones are being used a lot from the pipeline as well. In the oil and gas industry, they are not using people anymore, but they're using actually drones completely full with sensors to be able to find like any anomalies in pipes or something like that. So this is going to like get even bigger, and let's say the number of accessories that drone will be able to carry will actually increase the capacity to which the facility manager will be able to use them. For example, from the painting perspective, this is something we don't think too much, but actually there's quite a lot of spend in painting and renovating, for example, building that needs to be done by people, but drones will be able to do that automatically or autonomously, actually, sorry. That would be the first one of the main one. What we see as well, and it's been already like that for I believe a couple of years, but it's getting more and more, is the IoT, the Internet of Things. So pretty much having everything connected, the big data. to be able to see, to be able to analyze, and to be able to counteract any, let's say, things that we see that might not be like the best for us real time. That will be the two main ones that I will see for, as I said, the next couple of years to really be get developed in such a way that a lot of businesses will be using that in the future.
All right. Perfect, Thomas. Thanks for that. Right. I think we are sort of coming to the end of the session. Don't see any more questions coming up. But again, thank you everyone that's joined in for this session. This has been really, helpful with your questions as well. I think it just helps to bring out some of the further insights and comments from our end. And again, if you have more questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch later on. And thanks again to the entire panel here and everyone who's helped to manage this whole session. Thank you once again, and have a good rest of your day wherever you are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.